You know that Keeley Companies is all about fostering the world-class culture through their incredible cultural pillars. Well, it was time to add a seventh cultural pillar, Keeley Green. Guided by the mission to raise the sustainability standards by which they design, build, operate, and live, Keeley Green is dedicated to using a holistic approach to leave a positive impact on our environment, create a future that is sustainable for generations to come. In the words of Rusty Keeley, we are just getting started. You can learn more about that just getting started mentality and all the work they do by visiting my friends at Keeley Companies online at KeeleyCompanies.com.
Welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. John is the two-time national best-selling author of On Fire and In Awe. He's a world-class inspirational speaker, the host of the Live Inspired podcast, and he's the real-life inspiration behind the major motion picture Soul on Fire. Each week, John interviews extraordinary individuals about their life stories so you can more fully live your life story. Here's your host, John O'Leary.
Well, my friends, welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. We are back for yet another episode of Voices of Soul on Fire. It's highly ironic that the voice you are about to hear from today is the last one to be recorded for part of the series. And yet, she was the very first voice to be invited into the Live Inspired program as we designed the film now called Soul on Fire. The actor, the leader, the human in front of me is awesome. She's wonderful. She's magnificent. She's my friend. And she does a phenomenal job in one of the most important characters in the film, Soul on Fire. What should I tell you about Stephanie Szostak that you won't find out as we dance into this thing together? Maybe it's this. Two things. Number one is when I needed someone to portray my mom in the film, the very first and only person I knew who could do this well and do it beautifully, both from a personality standpoint, but also from a look perspective, was Stephanie. That's one thing. The second thing you should know is whether she is in front of a camera or the camera is nowhere near her, Stephanie radiates joy. She is joy. She's my friend. I love her. And when you hear this conversation, you will too. So, my friends, do me a big favor. You're going to be standing up at the end of the conversation. You might as well stand up right now for my friend, now yours, her name, Stephanie Szostak. Stephanie, welcome to Live Inspired with John O'Leary.
Thank you, John. What an intro. I'm so happy to be here because you didn't mention this, but this is my number two time on Live Inspired. And the first time it was my first ever podcast, and you were kind enough to have me on, and we didn't even have video. I was on the phone in my bathroom recording, and you said to me, we're going to have tea together. So this is our second time having tea, but now we're friends and we have a whole lot of history behind us.
Well, in this world of podcasting or speaking or authors or now film, the word friend is thrown around a lot. And I'll be honest, everyone we worked with is my friend, truly. And then there's Stephanie Szostak, who is a dear friend, someone I love. And so I'm just ready to dance into the Stephanie. I told you right before I hit record, I've never done a podcast like this. And you said, I find that hard to believe. You've done this a few times, O'Leary. You've done a podcast like this, not like this. So we're going to do it differently. We have had you on our show before. And so instead of me asking you questions, we're going to do a little differently. I'm going to be putting pictures in front of you. And I want you to tell our audience, what are you looking at? Because some of them are viewing this on YouTube or some other channels. Others are driving their kids to school, or they're on a road trip, or they're working out. So the first thing you'll have to do is define what's the photo. And then secondly, and why does it matter? So Stephanie Szostak, are you ready to play?
Holy crap. Yes, let's do it. This is fun.
There's a lot of pressure here. My friends, give her a little bit of grace. We all need it, but Szostak sure will today. So welcome to yet another Voices of Soul on Fire podcast. Here we go with Stephanie Szostak, my friend. Stephanie, the first photo pictured up there on the screen. What are we looking at and why does that matter?
I'm looking at a picture of my dad, my older brother, Mark, And me, I'm about 8 years old. My brother's 16. And we are in the United States at Disneyland, and it matters because it's a happy photo. There's a lot of tenderness, and I lost my brother, and you're making me cry. So, yeah, it matters because I think we come from where we come from, and all those people that shape us stay with us forever. And so these are two very important teachers. They're two of my biggest teachers in my life, my dad and my brother.
Let's start with your dad.
Mhm.
I feel like I know your dad. I know of your brother. I know his influence over your life, but I feel like I know your dad well through his daughter. The light he is reflects through you. So tell our listeners and viewers about your dad.
My dad is 90 years old. He just celebrated his 90th birthday. He still works. He is somebody who taught me to right from wrong, who taught me how to play golf. And that was kind of a metaphor for life too, playing golf, play one shot at a time, forget about the bad shot. All you can focus on is the next shot. He's somebody I call whenever I have a dilemma in my life. I'm very close to him, just like you are close to your parents, and how your dad also always helped you, I think, see the answer for yourself. My dad never tells me what to do, but he helps me find the answer for myself.
That's so good. She's not photographed, but she radiates just like your father. Before we talk about your brother, talk about your mom.
Oh, my mom is French. So my dad's American, my mom's French. My mom was my role model as a woman. She worked all her life. When I was young, she was never judging. Sometimes, as a little girl, I would come home at the dinner table, and I was somebody who always shared the whole day. And as a girl, I was like, and so did this, and so did that. And can you believe this? And my mom was always like, okay, well, just trying to balance everything and remind me that we are all doing the best we can. And she also taught me always to figure it out for myself. I would come to her and complain about things and ask for her help. She'd be like, figure it out. It's
Do
tough
me a
cookie.
favor.
One last thing I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
say about my mom, what that is very important. She said to me when I became a mother, being a mom is incredible, but your kids will leave and remember who you are as a woman also.
Woo. So do me a favor and say what you just said to me from your mom, but this time say it in French because she's probably said that to you in French. So say that to me in French.
Oh, she said, tu vas aimer tes enfants, tes enfants font partie de ta vie, mais ils vont partir un jour. Et rappelle-toi de qui tu es. Tu as ta vie, rappelle-toi de qui tu es.
Hmm. So we are in I'm taking this podcast not live with you where you live or live where I live, but instead you and I are both in the road in different sites right now. And I'm in a hotel room. And I just spoke to a group of students and then another group of students, and then afterwards a third group of students. And in this smallest group of all students, one of the questions was, are you defined by what you went through? Are you defined by being a burn survivor? So we talked about definitions of who you are and who you're
Mm.
not. And I think we play pretty small when we distill ourselves down to just one job title. And that does
Mhm.
not mean the role of being a dad, which is such an awesome role for me, and the role of being a mom, which is such a mighty role for you, aren't important. But your mother has some wisdom to share with you, and I think for the rest of us. So you mentioned through the photograph at Disney World that there was a third person photographed. It was your brother. Tell us about your brother.
My brother was 8 years older than me. He was my hero from the second I came out of the womb because, he was so cool. He would take me on rides on his moped when he was 16 and I was 8 years old, and he would pick me up from school. He was 6'4", 6'4", thin. He had long hair a lot. He was a rebel. He didn't think like other people. He later on became a vegetarian, way ahead of his time. He was really concerned about the world and the inequalities in the world and corruption. He read the Bible we were Jewish, but he, read the Old Testament. He was also very troubled as a teenager. He got kicked out of schools a lot. He smoked marijuana and then later got into heroin. That was, a really tough time for my family. There was a lot of lying, a lot of fear, a lot of nights where my mom would not sleep and fighting. But through it all, my parents were loving to my brother. I'll say this because if anybody is listening, and addiction is something that touches a lot of families. I remember my dad saying, "Mark is like a lost ship at sea, and we have to be the harbor, always there for him to come back to." And eventually, my dad moved out of the apartment with my brother for over a year to live, in a different environment. And he got out of heroin and became a Rastafari. For those of listeners who don't know what that is the religion of Bob Marley. He drew dreadlocks. He had a long beard. He was doing philosophy about life all the time. He would tire me, but but he had a lot of wisdom, and he passed away when he was 28 years old because drug complex, the heroin got him to have hepatitis C and cirrhosis, and he was HIV positive, and his heart gave out, and when he was 28.
I showed you a picture of him in Disney World, and he is glowing as he looks not at Mickey or the castle or some princess, but he's looking at you. When you shut your eyes and you imagine your brother, what's the moment that comes to mind? I'm sure it's not the Disney World, and I'm sure it's not when you lost him. I'm sure it's a different one. What's that one moment that just reminds you who your brother is? Not was, but who he is.
Mm. I'm looking at a picture of him right now, so that's why it's hard for me to. You're asking me a moment that reminds me of who he is. I think the moment that comes to mind is the numerous times that I drove with him in his car, and especially his last year of life. I came back. I was in college in the States, but I came back that year to go to college in France, and I saw him a lot, and we would drive together, and he would just talk to me about life, which is my favorite thing to do, and ask me questions and offer little wisdom. But just that's who he is, a guide for me, really encouraging me to never follow the herd and to stay loyal to what's right in a way, what values. And
Yes, you've done it.
yes, not be caught up in all the ego and, all the things that we can all get caught up in as human beings.
Yeah, Stephanie, no one has ever accused you of becoming caught up in the ego. And it's one of the things I love most about your sincerity and just your sweetness to others. I'm going to show you another picture. I really had to go through the family photo album to track this one down. What am I looking at?
I believe this. You are looking at a 7-year-old Stephanie with a pixie cut riding Comanche at El Rancho Stevens in Gaylord, Michigan. And that is my heaven place, on top of a horse and in this ranch. This is where I learned how to ride horses. I didn't speak English. It was very hard because the counselors there would yell instructions at me like heels down, heels down, and I'd be like, what are they saying? Something down, and I would try everything down. But I love horses. When I'm on top of a horse, I feel freedom. I communicate with them. Yeah, I have horses all around my office here that I look at. And this place I would go every year from age 5 to age 14. We would go at first just for 5 days, then we would go like an entire week because I loved it so much. And my parents would go play golf, and kids were, on their own all day long with counselors. And it was just awesome.
Freedom. All right, moving on.
Yes.
What am I looking at here? Is Stephanie Szostak.
You're looking at 5 William and Mary golfers, the women's golf team. And those are dear friends of mine. And I think this is senior year, I think. Yeah, William and Mary is where I went to school, and I was really lucky to play on the golf team. Golf shaped me. I've played all my life, and it was incredible to get to play competitive college sports. It was hard. It gave me structure.
You told me in the past, and you whispered it during the podcast already, that golf is like a metaphor for life.
Yes.
Unpack that for me. What do you mean by that?
That no two rounds are the same. You will have good rounds and bad rounds. Within a round, you will have good shots and bad shots. You will hit great shots that have unlucky bounces. And it's all about how do you recover from these things. You'll spend a day at the golf course and it's windy, and you can spend your whole round complaining about the conditions or people in front of you that are making you wait, or so and so said this. Or you can focus on your game and how to recover and how to play one shot at a time. It's also a game where you call penalty on yourself. It's a game of honor. And that's something that my dad taught me. It's very easy in golf to cheat, to move your ball in the rough, to drop a ball without a penalty stroke. So again, like life, it's easy to cheat, but it's a game of honor.
Hmm. Who knew we'd be learning all these nuggets from my friend who has, by the way, 3 hole-in-ones, I believe, to her name, Stephanie Szostak. So, Stephanie, we're going to move on from that one into this one, which is another great drive that I think you hit, but also one Brit as well. So, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at my incredible husband, Britt, and me getting married. It's our wedding day. We're dancing together, and he's lifting me up, and he's got a grin. There's this typical Brit face, and I'm just laughing. And we've been married 29 years this year. We met when we were just kids, and we grew together, grew up and grew together, and became parents together. And I couldn't imagine having a more amazing person to partner through life with.
So, I know you, and this story doesn't show up in your book or your future memoirs, but I do know you, and I also know that 29 years of marriage is awesome. And there were moments where it's like, I don't know if this is going to work between us as you're dating and trying to figure out life together. You shared with me this story involving Grand Central Station, and it is just so cool. So, would you give us a snapshot of what I'm referring to there and just this moment that I think reinforced with him and with you that this thing is meant to be?
Yes, we were uh 5 years into our marriage, and we were going through a rough patch, and 9/11 happened, and we were together when 9/11 happened for a couple of days, and then Britt went to see family up north where we live, and I went to see my friend in Pennsylvania because we were just this is where we were in our marriage. But I came back from Philadelphia to Penn Station in New York City, and I hadn't told Britt what train I was going to be on. But I get out of the train, and I'm about to step into the escalator, and I look up, and there he is standing. And I think this was, I remember I got up there and I was like, oh my God, how did you know? And he said, I don't know, I just took a guess. But it was both of us in during this time in New York City that was so scary, uh, coming together and saying, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna find our way through this, and committing to be together.
It's one of my favorite stories. For those who've never been at Grand Central Station, it's a
Penn
mess.
Station. Yeah, it was Penn Station. Yeah.
It's enormous. It's enormous.
Yes.
And there's 50,000 trains in and out. Like you can't possibly guess when someone's going to arrive or when they won't. So the idea of this guy looking over the horizon for his girl coming home, and then for you to see him on the end of the horizon and for you to run toward him, like it is movie quality. So moving on from that moment into moments to come, I think it gets even better. because this little man shows up on the scene. So Stephanie Szostak, tell me what I'm looking at here.
You're looking at my firstborn, Max, and me, and we're in Central Park, and he's got a huge smile on his face, and I do too. This was a really happy, it was actually a photo shoot. I used to model at that time, and it was the first time that I did this with him, and it was an incredible day.
Well, he loved being an only child. Unfortunately, it's meant to be because then this happened. So what am I looking at right now on the screen? Tell our listeners what we're looking at.
It's Fire Island, the ocean, and it's Britt, my husband, and Max, who's now probably 6 or 7, and Eli, who's our number 2 son, and he's 2.5 or 3, and they're playing in the waves with their daddy, and you can see the waves are pretty rough in the back there.
Pretty fierce.
Yeah, fierce. Mm.
What am I
Oh my
looking
goodness, John. You're looking at Eli and Max and Britt and me, and we're at a wedding. This is probably just a couple of years ago, or so. Max is probably 21, Eli 17, and they look like grown men. And I remember somebody telling me when my kids were growing up, little kids, small problems, big kids, big problems. And you have kids, and yes, it's a reality. But just thinking of my boys, and it's not a straight road to growing up. But I just have this feeling that we're just like a bird helping our little ones take flight,
Yeah.
and they'll fall and then they come back, and then you help them go again. And I'm just so proud of them.
Well, and you are in Hollywood, you are on the big screen, but those boys of yours are so handsome. Like they just are like these good looking, sweet looking guys, man. So well done. They're handsome. So's their mom and dad. Moving on from that Christmas card into the next one. What in the world? What in the world am I looking at right here, Showstack?
Oh my goodness. You're looking at a black and white photo of young adults, men and women, who do not wear a shirt. It appears that they're naked, but they're not. They're wearing underwear. And you can't see anything on the top. But this was a picture from Wilhelmina Models when I started modeling in the new faces. So what's funny about that was I started modeling at 26 years old, but I said that I was 19, or the booker, the manager told me, you cannot say you're 26. You don't look 26. So you have to say that you're 19. And I did that for a few years, and that led me to doing commercials and eventually to taking my first acting class at 29 years old.
Most of us we are what we are by the time we're in our mid 20s. If you become a nurse, you're a nurse. If you go into, accounting, that's what you do. If you go into modeling, you're there. It seems like you had this really quick iterative process of going into corporate America up in New York and then pivoting into modeling and then pivoting forward relatively quickly from that into television and then onward. Was that good fortune? Or were you the kind of individual that you were always just dipping your toe in new waters, seeing what you liked and what you did not?
I think I just had no idea what I wanted to do, which is pretty common at that age. And chances came along. I was working at Chanel in marketing, which was kind of an amazing job for 2.5 years. But then the director of advertising asked me, do you want to do this modeling thing? And I'm like, okay. And then the photographer said, which modeling agency are you with? And I was like, oh, no, no, I'm not a model. But then I thought, that planted a seed. And I thought, I'm not, this office job thing isn't really doing it for me. And I thought maybe I could try this modeling thing. I knew that wouldn't be what I wanted to do, but it's like maybe that could lead somewhere, and maybe I can end up making as much money as I'm doing now, which was not much at all. And I was married at the time with Britt, and we talked about it together, and he encouraged me. He was like, do it. I don't know that I would have had the courage to do this on my own, but throughout all my sort of risky things, he was always there in the background whispering, do it. It will be
Wow.
an adventure. Do it. And I think that's an incredible role model of a man for my sons to see, him. It's also happened through acting jobs that send me away traveling. They see him being a champion, and both of us being a champion of one another, encouraging one another to keep trying new things.
It's producer Amy here with a special invitation from John O'Leary. First things first, thank you. So many of you have done so much over the years, and together we've made it to this moment. We are just days away from the world premiere of Soul on Fire. And as we head into this final stretch, we want to have a little fun and, of course, give something back to you, our loyal Live Inspired podcast listeners. John's goal is to touch 1 million lives on opening weekend. It's bold, but with your help, we believe this can happen. Here's how. Join the Soul on Fire movement. It is a raffle tied to a few simple actions, many of which you've probably already done, and it's giving you a chance to win some pretty amazing prizes. The grand prize is a Soul on Fire Afterglow VIP experience with John O'Leary. John will personally take you to the landmark spots from the movie, introduce you to the heroes from his story, and show you his hometown through his very own eyes. The package also includes 2 first-class flights to St. Louis, a night at the Ritz-Carlton, and so much more. To join, just head over to johnolearyinspires.com/soulonfire. Again, that's johnolearyinspires.com/soulonfire. Now let's get back to the show.
We're going to flip the page now. We're going to move away from modeling into the next step.
What about Soul on Fire, John? We're not talking about your
Hey, we will. I promise you, Szostak, we're going to talk about the film, but we got to talk about the woman who stars as my mom. And before we can talk about her, we got to know the journey toward that. So what are we looking at right here?
We're looking at me on the set of The Devil Wears Prada, playing Jacqueline Follet. This was my first studio film, but it was a tidbit role as Meryl Streep's nemesis. At the time, we did not know that The Devil Wears Prada would become what it has become. It was an incredible job. This particular scene, so I'm opposite Meryl Streep, and it's a scene where we're in a banquet and we meet each other, and she had earrings that looked like the Eiffel Tower, and it was her close up. Now you know what I'm talking about when I say it was her. The camera was on her, and all of a sudden I just improvised and I said, "And your earrings, they look like the Eiffel Tower," and she said, "Yes, the Tour Eiffel." And I was like, oh my God, I just improvised with Meryl Streep. But then I was so green, I didn't realize I needed to do the same thing on the reverse if I wanted it to be in the movie, but I didn't have the guts to do it.
Well, I'm glad you had the guts to do it once, because I led not only to that role, but then into this one. And then we're one question away from it, get to the next. But to talk about not only dinner for the schmucks,
yeah,
more than that, talk about having your kids on the set. How fun is it to be in Hollywood on the big screen, but doing so with your husband and with your babies?
Well, this we shot in LA. So this was after 10 years of hustling and not much to show for it. Devil Wears Prada happened, but not much happened. And I finally booked my first lead role in a studio film. And it was Dinner for Schmucks opposite Paul Rudd and Steve Carell. We shot in LA. So I was away from home. And this day, Britt and the kids just traveled to visit and showed up on set, and it was amazing. And I actually have that picture in my office, them on my chair. What was great about it, first of all, I missed them, so seeing them was amazing. But I saw them, they were a little bit, Eli's very young, but Max was a little proud of his mom.
Right on.
And that was cool.
Well, and my favorite part about it, and I did not see it at first, is but your joy. You know what it's just so like proud. It's so
Yes.
so beautiful. It's a beautiful shot.
And also I think being an actor is something that is very centered in a way, but having kids keeps you grounded. It reminds you of what's important. So on that day, I had a lot of pressure on that set, but on that day my kids were there and I was like, this is what matters.
So cool. Well, for me, you've been asking for it, so we might as well get there now, Stephanie. Tell our listeners and our viewers what we're looking at right now.
We're looking at Susan O'Leary and me meeting for the first time in St. Louis. I think we're at a Panera, a lunch place, and we had not started shooting. I showed up and I saw you. Nobody, you guys didn't see me, but I saw you, your mom, and your dad making your way to the table. Your mom working your dad's wheelchair, you getting the food. And in that moment, I got the energy of the O'Learys. You were on your way to do a speech, you were about to travel, and yet you wanted to make sure your parents were all settled. Your mom was dealing with your dad, and then I show up and your mom looked at me and opened her arms and just gave me the warmest hug that somebody can give. And I can't really understand this because I'm about to play her on screen. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know actors or whatnot. She could have been a little bit guarded, but no, it was just come here. And I think we both teared up. And after this, we sat at a table. You and your dad sat at another table, and we went straight to, deep talk. There was no fluffy talk. And I asked your mom a question. I said, Susan, can you share with me your earliest memory? And she said, I remember growing up with my sister, and our grandmother lived with us. And she said, I remember playing with my sister, and then my grandmother yelling at us a lot because she needed help in her bath. And she would say, Susie, come help me. And I'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to stop playing, but I have to go. And so I would go and help my grandmother in the bath. And in that moment, I thought, oh my gosh, her earliest memory is of being a caregiver.
Amen.
And then she was a caregiver to you, to your siblings, but to you in a major, major way, and then to your dad, Denny. And that just gave me, a real glimpse of who she is at the deepest of her soul.
So good. Well, I love that photo. It's framed in my house.
Oh.
See my mom with her arms open. That's how she lives. And as a kid, it bothered the heck out of me because everywhere we go, she stops what she's doing and where we're supposed to be going to love the one in front of her. And I always hated that. And yet that's like the best of her. This woman who's always up for the interruption and always welcoming of the person in front of her, whether they are an actress about to portray her in a film or they are, in quotes, a nobody that no one else is paying any attention to. My mom sees them all. So I was
Mhm.
not at all surprised when she just brought you in and I captured that moment with my little phone. Glad we did. I also captured this one too. So tell our listeners where we are when that picture was taken and what they're not seeing right now.
We're in the church that you and Beth got married in, and it's your dad is sitting down there, and I'm just holding his hand. We were sitting, John Corbett, who plays your dad in the movie, and I were sitting in the pew. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Yes. And your mom and dad were behind us while we were shooting the scene. Your parents were on set a lot, and your dad is went through, Parkinson's, so much pain, and yet every time I looked at him, his eyes were. You talk a lot about childlike wonder, and that's what I saw in your father's eyes. He was taking it all in. He was so grateful to just be there, and he was so darn proud of you. It was really beautiful to see both of them and you every day on set.
Hmm. Szostak's trying to get O'Leary to cry. It's not working. My armor is on, so I'm not going to let her get her wish. But this next scene that I'm about to show her, this is also photographed now, hanging up in my house because it's my favorite scene from the entire film. So here we go, Stephanie. Tell our listeners and viewers what they're looking at right here.
John Corbett, who plays Denny, and me, and behind us, the real Denny and the real Susan O'Leary. And we are in the church watching Joel and Macy, who play you and Beth, getting married.
why that moves me, and you know this because you know my dad, is he basically was unable to stand up for about a decade.
Oh,
And when McNamara yelled out the word action and they dollied left, they captured the one take where Denny was able to stand up. That's the one take that they dollied left, and they capture you and John. That's really what they were going for. It just so happened that my mom and dad are behind you. And when my dad heard the word action, he assumed like, well, I guess that means I stand up. So the sweet man pulls himself up. And as you know, Stephanie, May 30th, my dad went home. He went home to heaven, and he's no longer in pain, and we're grateful for that. But every single time, I've seen the film 20 times now, and I'll see it 200 times, I'm sure, in the future. Every time we get to that part of the movie, and I see that sweet bride walk down the aisle and sweet Joel play John and all the other things, it's all good. But the moment that's great is when we roll from you and Corbett to mom and dad, and he rises and stands. It's a beautiful shot.
it just shows you, right? When things around you move you, they push you to do things you didn't know you were still capable of doing. Amazing.
This was one of my favorite nights on set. We left behind the work. We left behind the AV guys and the mics and the boom boys and everything else, the best boys, and we snuck out. So tell our listeners and viewers what we're looking at right here.
We are inside a French restaurant, and it's Beth and you and Britt and me. It's the first time that you meet Britt in person. And we should say that the reason I got to know you was because of Britt, because he heard you speak at one of his work function about 15 years ago. And Britt is an avid listener of your podcast and has also read your book. And he was just so thrilled to get to come and meet you and Beth in person. We had fun.
Oh, such a fun night. There are people in life when you are with them, it's work. And sometimes those people are like family members or friends. But when you're with them, it's like, oh gosh, like that was the longest 37-minute dinner of my life. And then there's the two of you. It was a long dinner. We had so much fun and it flew by. So
Yeah,
that was a special night for both Beth and me.
us too.
And this is one of my favorite pictures taken on set. So tell our listeners and viewers, what are we staring at right here?
So we're at Bush Stadium, and it's the kids who play your siblings, four of them. Oh my God, look at little Lucy, her smile. So we and me, and we are standing. Everybody's got an enormous grin, and behind us is a picture of Jack Buck. And we were rushing to go to set. And I'm carrying one of the little girls, and we're rushing because we're a little bit late. And working with kids is one of my favorite things because there's no pretending there. And we passed the picture of Jack Buck, and then I'm like, let's get a picture. And so we back up, and they were so excited because it was like, oh my God, we're late and we're taking time to take a picture. And I love that picture too.
I do too. Time is money in Hollywood.
Yes.
Here you go from
We
being
weren't
a
late.
party.
We weren't late though. We made
Uh,
it.
the film got done eventually, just 2 years late, but here we go. All right, moving on. Who are we looking at right here, Stephanie?
Sean McNamara, our incredible director, and me, and behind us is the poster of Soul on Fire, and this was at an LA screening. I adore Sean. I actually listened to the podcast with you and him. He is such an actor's director. He creates an atmosphere on set that is, I love it because he works fast. He doesn't take you use that many takes. He knows how to read the actor. So meaning he doesn't come to you and talk about the scene and all that. He lets you, he gives you the freedom to bring whatever you want to bring. And then if he has a note, he'll give you a note. But it's nice as an actor to feel that you can have the freedom to play. It's nice to know also that when your director has it, you're moving on. He says, genius. Then after a while, you're like, wait, can I trust him here? But you can, because if he's not happy. Also, what I love is I've seen the film now, and there are incredible shots, where sometimes you have directors who are all into the shot, meaning the camera is going to pan and they need you to be there he never tells you about those things.
Right.
And but he does it, meaning that they're both important, technique and what he needs to do with his crew, with the crew, and the placement of the camera, and the actor having their space. They're all important, and he does a great job at making it all work together.
It was awesome seeing him work and treat everybody as if they mattered.
Yes.
I love
Ah.
this photo. So tell our listeners, what photo are they missing out on by not looking at the video right now? So what are we doing in this one?
You're seeing the very sexy John Corbett, who is dressed all in black. His hair is licked back, and I'm next to him. We're doing a Q&A, and we're both cracking up. He's just being charming. I'm laughing at something he said. So John Corbett, I don't know if you know this story, but the day we shot at Busch Stadium, we're about to go, and I'm leave hair and makeup with my aging makeup on, which, because we had, this was later in life, so they make you look older, which, by the way, for women, if you want to feel good about yourself, instead of using anti-aging products, hire a makeup artist to make
Yeah.
you look old. Go around town for a whole day like this, then take off the makeup, you will feel like $1,000,000. But so I get out of the makeup trailer and I go to my trailer to get my clothes on. And it's a tiny trailer, so there's just a desk, a couch. I open the door and I see on the desk a plate of like lasagna and meatballs, a crumpled napkin, and I'm like, oh crap, wrong trailer. So I close the door and I look around, but then I see my name on the door and I'm like, no, this is my trailer. What the heck? And now all of a sudden I'm like, did I forget? Did I eat something and I forgot that I ate this? And then I'm like, no, I didn't eat. And now I'm like, who the heck was in my trailer? Somebody sat in my chair, ate at my desk, left a mess. It's like I'm in Goldilocks, right? Like, and I'm looking around, everything seems to be in place. I put my wardrobe on and I go outside. I'm about to go in the van to go to set, and Corbett is sitting there. And he's like, what's going on? So I explained to him, and he's like, oh my God, that's really messed up. We should really tell somebody. All of a sudden, I look at him and I'm like, oh my God, you did this. You did this, didn't you?
That's
And he's got this slight grin and he's very proud of himself. And yes, he did this. I got pranked by John Corbett. It was awesome because basically that tells you what your set was like. It was camaraderie. It was a very serious story that we were telling. There were serious moments, but through it all, it was light. There was joy. William H. Macy played his ukulele. People kept talking to one another, and I think that all came from you because from the moment we got on set, you would welcome people. You just everyone created an atmosphere of a, and I really don't like to use this for work, a family, because again, that's one of those expressions that people use, but that's what it felt like.
Mm. I love John.
Me
Like
too.
sincerely love that dude. I don't think he knows how to act. And I say that with praise. I think when he's in front of a camera, he's just John Corbett. And he's
Mhm.
just John Corbett doing different scenes and lines and becoming that person for a moment, but he is unchanging. And his quick wit and prankster attitude, he just lives with this. He is a blast, so fun. I'm glad you got to partner up with him and get pranked by him. Another guy that you like a lot is pictured up here. So tell our listeners less about who you're next to. It is John O'Leary. We are hugging. Behind us is a poster. So my question to you, Stephanie Szostak, as we get ready to wrap up the Voices of Soul on Fire episode, we'll have a few quotes from you in a moment, and then 7 questions in a moment. But my last question around the movie is, when people walk out of the film,
Mm.
you invested years into it. A lot of time in St. Louis, a lot of time preparing for it, and now a lot of time readying for it afterwards. What do you hope they walk out of a theater with? How are they different because they saw a film than before they walked into that theater?
Uh, I hope that they are moved, which I'm sure they will be, and that they just talk with whoever they came to the theater with about what moved them. There are so many things in this movie that will catch people's attention. We're all different. We're all going to grasp on different things. I think movies have a way to speak to you for where you're at in your life in that specific moment. So people are going to take out a lot of different things, and I just hope that it starts conversations and that they feel inspired. I know for me, one of the key themes that really impacted me was having the honor to play your mom. Her way of loving, which is deep love, but at times tough love.
Mm.
And that really had me think a lot in my life. Oh my gosh, a lot of the people who have impacted me actually gave me a healthy dose of tough love at times. Tough love helps us know the truth about ourselves at times, but it also helps us believe in ourselves when we don't, because somebody else is telling us
Yes.
you have to fight, like your mom did when you asked her, Mom, am I gonna die? And she didn't answer like every other mom who would say, No, of course you're not gonna. She said to you, Do you want to die? It's it's the most surprising
Mm.
sentence a mom could say to their son as he's about to be wheeled into the operating room. But I think she gave you agency in that moment to know you have to fight. And we are, a lot of us, will all have moments where we have to fight, and having somebody tell us, do you want to, you're going to have to fight. Do you want to, you want this, is amazing.
I love that scene. I love the fact that it happened in life. I love the fact that my mother responded the way she did with that quote,
Hmm.
take your agency, left or right, you
Yeah.
decide. I love the way you portrayed it. And a little story you don't even know is they shot half of that scene and then they had to turn the set around and shoot the other half, which is when you are saying, wait, wait, wait. Okay, so you're coming out of that, wait, wait, wait. And then you go into your next lines. But the scene you just shot was wait, wait, wait. So that's not on the script, but you are preparing yourself to do what you're supposed like to carry that forward. So they keep saying quiet on set, picture up, roll sound, action. And then Stephanie's saying, wait, wait, wait. So we keep hearing that. So Sean keeps waiting to roll because he thinks he thinks you're like, no, I'm not ready yet. Wait, wait, wait. So there's like, we're against the clock and they're like, Stephanie's not ready. And then they call it up again, and then we hear like, wait, wait, wait. And it's like no one knows what's going on. But what was really going on is you are putting yourself in the place where mom is saying, wait, wait, wait. And she's got one more thing to say to this little boy being gurneyed away from him, likely to die. And that leads you ultimately to say, baby, I love you so much. And then
Hmm.
John's question, and then your response, and then his, and then onward into the fight. It's a beautiful shot. You carried her energy perfectly, Stephanie. And if I talk more about it, I'll cry. So let's move.
It's an honor for you that you, thank you for trusting me to play your mom.
You did it beautifully. I couldn't think of anyone else I wanted, and I'm glad you said yes. So, 4 quotes as we wrap up this episode before the Live Inspired 7. These are your quotes, Stephanie Szostak. I think this one kind of comes from your dad a little bit from your brother a little bit, but this is your words. Read it to us and then tell us what you mean.
We should all try to embrace our own quirkiness. I think a lot of times our quirkiness, what makes us different is things we don't really, or for me at least, were things I didn't like about myself. And I tried to fix. And because you don't want to be quirky, you don't want to be different. But we also all are able to see people, that we look at and see their quirkiness and fall in love with it. That's what makes us amazing as human beings, is all these tiny little things that make us different. And that's how I really have learned as I got older, looking back, that when you are authentic, when you are who you are, that's when you can connect with others. That's when good things happen. So yeah, embrace who you are.
This is a longer quote. Tell our listeners and viewers what you said, and then just briefly tell us why it matters.
People are so obsessed with making their careers and having a big house. Then you realize that kills your dreams. It even kills what makes your life, because you get so busy inside. It's kind of like that Talking Head song, right? Where it's And then you wake up and you ask yourself,
Woo.
how did I get here? Who is who's
What is
have
this?
a beautiful wife? What is this? You know, yeah, it's so easy to get caught into what we think we're supposed to do next, whether it's those things we grew up hearing or just what society tells us. And then the more we have, the more we're chasing this dream of big house, big cars, big this, and more responsibilities we have, the more we have to work to keep those things going. And then we're not enjoying the little things.
Mm.
We're too just busy with all the stuff that, I don't know, keeps us away from connecting again with one another and finding peace within ourselves and with others.
So good. One more quote, Stephanie Szostak, and then into the Live Inspired 7. And I'm going to read this one so you can have a moment to reflect on it. But here we come. Just like sports teams rely on playbooks to adjust, pivot, and better respond to what's happening on the field, create your own playbook, says Stephanie Szostak, a dynamic tool that will evolve as you continue to learn and grow and transform. Where does this quote come from, and why does it matter to our listeners?
This quote comes from a book that I wrote called Selfish: Step into a Journey of Self-Discovery to Revive Confidence, Joy, and Meaning. It is a workbook that will guide you to create your own playbook for life. And that is something that I created for my own well-being, because I realized that, and you know, we all come across things that resonate with us, that we read, that we hear on a podcast, our own life lessons, our own aha moments, our own memories that help lift us up when we're down. We all have this reservoir of things that help us be the best that we can be, but they're all scattered. And when life gets hard, we forget about them.
Mm.
And so for me, you know, I really had a hard time in my acting career with confidence, because there's a lot of rejection and whatever. And then when you get on the job, there's a lot of pressure. And so I created a playbook to help me prepare for the day with all the things that help me be a better actor. But then I created one in life too. And I think it's really important in the time we're in, because there is so much noise coming at us all day long, news, social media, and it really impacts how we feel and how we think. And just I found that waking up in the morning and reminding myself of what matters, how I want to show up for others, for myself, then helps me better respond when all the noise comes, whatever that noise may be.
I love the book. So does my mother. There are like 3 books that sit on her nightstand. One is called the Bible, one is called On Fire, and the third one is your book. So not only did you portray her in the forthcoming major motion film called Soul on Fire, yeah, go to your theater, check it out, but you also have influenced her life after that embrace. So we're grateful for you, Stephanie. We have, as you know, because you've been my friend for years, you've listened to the podcast for years, and you've been on the podcast years
Wait,
ago.
wait, wait. I can't, I have to cut you off. Sorry. Well, I just want to say for our listeners, because, you know, I wrote this book, and one day I was doing my meditation, quiet time, my time to be silent. The book was with the publisher, and I needed to find somebody to write, or they asked me, do you want somebody to write the foreword or not? And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. But who? Anyway, I'm meditating, and all of a sudden I like, John O'Leary. And I emailed you and I asked you, I said, will you read this? And if you feel like you connect to it, will you consider writing the forward? And you did. And it is an amazing forward. I can't imagine a better way for people to start their own journey of discovery, of living inspired, than with your story at the beginning of it. So thank you again.
I remember what I wrote, and it ultimately was when little John learns the piano and the doorbell rang and he hated it. And the doorbell rang and he hated it. And years later, the doorbell rang and he welcomed it, because it wasn't about piano, it was about life. And the introduction ends ultimately with recognizing that Stephanie Szostak is not the door. The doorbell's ringing. What do you want to do with this one life that you have? You can waste it. You can be accidental in it. You can stumble forward, or you can be highly intentional in creating a game plan for your life.
Mhm.
So Stephanie, we appreciate you laying that out for us and walking with me toward it. It's been an honor seeing you just impact lives in mighty ways on and off the screen. So let's go into the Live Inspired 7. Stephanie, what's been the most impactful book you've ever read?
The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra, because it is the book that started me on a journey of personal growth. And I like to say the best makeover there is for me, which was a mindset makeover.
Awesome. What's one positive characteristic or one trait you possessed as a little girl in Paris that you wish you exhibited as brilliantly today?
Just playfulness. Sometimes I get too serious, especially when things are hard. I can forget to have a sense of humor. It's really important for me to have a sense of humor. And I wish I remembered that more.
If your home caught fire and all living things, people, boys, husbands are out, and you have an opportunity of running back in and grabbing one item, what's that one thing you would grab, Stephanie?
I'm very practical, so I think it's our passports or birth
We're
certificates,
going to
all that
JFK,
that
honey.
file, that file where it's like, oh,
If you could sit on a bench on a gorgeous day and have a long conversation with anyone, living or dead, who do you want to be seated next to?
I would want to, I knew you would ask me this. I would want to sit next to my brother. I would want to sit next to Robert Redford, who passed away yesterday. He actually had the same birthday as my brother, but he is in my favorite movie of all times called The Way We Were. And he's done so much for actors with the Sundance Film Festival and their lab. I would love to sit with him and Bob Marley.
What's the best advice your brother, Robert Redford, Bob Marley, or anyone else ever gave you? So the best advice Stephanie Szostak has ever received is
You will always know what's right from wrong. You may not always do the right thing, but you'll always know what the right thing is. My dad, and I think his dad told him that.
what advice would you give yourself at age 20? That girl I showed you a picture of earlier in her golf outfit, what advice did she need to hear?
Trust yourself and keep exploring.
Stephanie Szostak, my friend. It has been said that all great people can have their lives summed up in one sentence. How would you like yours to read?
I think I said this last time, and I will say it again. She did it her own way and inspired others to do the same thing.
Stephanie, you have done it your own way. You have learned along that way. You've skinned your knees a few times, but gotten up and moved forward with a smile on your face. It's a beautiful life story, and I'm sure that your best is yet to come. So, Stephanie, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being part of our family. And thank you for portraying my hero, my beautiful mom on Soul on Fire. We're grateful for you.
Thank you, John, for giving me this opportunity.
Well, my friends, that was the voice and the story, the photo book of my friend, now yours. Her name is Stephanie Szostak. She stars in the forthcoming film Soul on Fire as who? As mom, as Susan O'Leary, as this incredible friend, sister, daughter, spouse, colleague, mother, champion for a son. It's a great film. Stephanie did a phenomenal job. You're going to love it. And you're asking yourself right now, well, John, how do I find out where this is playing? And how do I fill theaters around my region with people who can be inspired by her work and this film? Well, guess what, family? I got a site for you to go check out. It is called www.soulonfiremovie.com. Somehow, some of you listening to my voice week after week as we roll through these voices of Soul on Fire still haven't been there. So go there right now. First, watch the trailer, then get tickets, then fill up theaters. Yeah, bring in the people you work with, worship with, work out with, your kid's fifth grade class, your neighbor's sophomore class, the entire lacrosse team. Doesn't matter who it is. They will leave the theater better and different than they walked into it. Where can you do that? Well, go online with me right now to www.soulonfiremovie.com The film comes out officially October 10th. So, my friends, we are moving toward not the finish line, it's the starting line. This is when we really get to get this movie out there in a big way and begin a movement of unity, of hope, of togetherness, of celebrating family, of grit, of gratitude, of faithfulness embodied, and of the truth that your scars don't have to negatively define you. If a film like that might move you, and how could it not? Then do me a big old favor, go to the website right now, watch the trailer, share that throughout your network, get your tickets, plural, fill theaters around the country and around the world, and let's make a difference together. My friends, I have always appreciated you being part of our Live Inspired podcast community. If you want to make sure you are getting these podcasts directly into your inbox each week, then just subscribe. Wherever you tune into this voice and these messages, subscribe right now so you can make sure you get this free episode showing up in your world where you are. I want to thank you for tuning in this time. And until next time, my name is John O'Leary, family. Today is your day. What a gift. Live with your soul on fire. Keeley Companies was started almost 50 years ago by the one and only Larry Keeley. What started as a small family-owned paving company in St. Louis has grown to a nationally known full-service construction, development, and restoration partner. Larry the Legend, as he is affectionately known, has been a part of this growth every step of the way and continues to provide guidance as his son Rusty, my buddy, drives their vision and achieves results on purpose. His unwavering foundation of a family culture with a focus on people has gotten Keeley Companies to where they are today, and their journey is truly just beginning. To learn more about Larry the Legend and Keeley Companies, check them out at KeeleyCompanies.com.